Hello. Right, so as I said, we have our next talk coming up. So that is from Keiko Toma and Charlotte Atherton, and they will be talking about enhancing advanced analytics and leadership skills. So thank you very much. I'll hand over to you both for that.
Fabulous, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Atherton and I'm presenting today with my colleague Keiko Toma. We are both from NHS England and we work in a regional analytics team. And we're here to talk to you today about enhancing advanced analytics and leadership skills. So just before we get into the main presentation, I would just like it if you could react or put something in the chat if you've ever felt like you can't make time for learning and development. Particularly if you keep scheduling learning and development time, but it keeps getting pushed, back due to other priorities. So this is definitely something that I found in previous roles, and it's something. Oh yeah, you can see some reactions coming through now. Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, this is definitely something that I found in previous roles. And so what we're here today is to talk to you about how we made a learning and development program that worked in our team and how we managed to stop that from happening. And so we, by the end of the session, we really hope that you will be able to understand how we've upskilled our analytics team to deliver advanced analysis whilst at the same time meeting tight deadlines. We want you to feel confident that the learning and development program is achievable and adaptable for everyone. And we would really like it if you could take away some small actionable tasks towards upskilling yourself and unblocking the sticking points. So in particular, stopping the learning and development time from getting pushed back. So yeah, I'm now going to hand over to Keiko, who's going to talk you through how we set up the leadership and program.
Thanks so much, Charlotte. So as Charlotte said, we're hoping that you can take away small actions that help you actually do some of this. So I'll take you through a playbook of 6 things, and I'm going to go through each of those 6 in more detail in coming slides. But we'll start with the strategic vision. Like anything, we need a sense of where are we trying to get to? What do we want the team to be able to do, look and feel like? And I know that's really difficult in such times of uncertainty right now, given what's happening in the ecosystem of the health and social care and within analytics. But there are some things that we can figure out. We do want to be able to do these things at these points in time. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll look at personal objectives and development plans, which some of us may have had at some point in our career. Probably not a lot of people have had them consistently and robustly. So we will look at how we've done that. We'll look at annual analytical plans. I know some teams work at different paces. Some are faster, some are much longer term work. But even in a very operational, closer to the frontline team we are in the region, we were able in most areas to come up with annual program plans of analysis that help to really protect that learning time. The leadership development was an absolutely fundamental enabler of being able to do these plans and upskill our team and manage our stakeholders, which is the next bit about stakeholder management. Obviously, it's not only about the analysts, but it's about the ecosystem we work within and our partners, our customers, or users, or whatever your term of choice is. And then, of course, within your team for the analysts, how do you actually run a learning program? What are those pillars and what does that look like? So if we start with the strategic vision, and I know we're trying to shift, left shift care into the community, and I know people are left-handed, but there's a lot about right here, so bear with me. The team has the right amount, right, the right skills, at the right level, so not everyone needs to be an expert in all areas at the right time. So looking at each part of the quarters or the years coming up, at what time points, how many people will need which skills at which levels? And that's really important also about psychological safety for the analyst. And not everybody needs to be advanced in all software or all stats methods or all analytical parts or the consultancy phases. But we want to be able to, well, at some point again, hopefully some of you are able to, and some point we will as well, recruit analysts. So we have a vision of where the team will be and what skills we need. So that can inform our recruitment strategy. It informs our retention strategy for really, really happy and skilled analysts with good well-being. That's not just a tick box exercise, and developing highly skilled analysts so we can achieve our team's vision about having the right skills at the right time, but also that's underpinned by the wider actual program and our team's strategy of doing the analytics that, if you were there this morning, Penny Dash said, we have the data, we have the capacity, often we've got the capability, but it's doing the right analysis to answer the right questions, which we had built into our broader analytical team vision and was endorsed by our directors, our chief operating officers, and was part of the much bigger ecosystem's vision and governance of where we're all going. So once we had the vision set, then how do we get the team there? We have 5 common objectives that everybody in that, we have about 25 to 29 people in the team, I think 29 funded posts, something like that. We've got a rather large team. Everyone has the same 5 objectives. Yeah. So one of those objectives is about learning and development. So achieving the team's core skills profile and ensuring that ourselves and the people who report to us achieve that core skills profile. And that core skills profile we did off of the National Competency Framework. So thank you to AFA and everybody who's fed into that. We're looking more in the future about the Department of Health and the Civil Service analytics competencies, of course. But the core skills profile we signed off as of everything in the National Competency Framework and analytical skills families. This is how much of our team, whether it be 30% in GIS or 30% in evaluation statistics, in impact measurement, and 100% of the team at grade level in core statistical skills. We had a core skills profile, and each person's SMART measurables were tailored to that core skills profile. As I said, not everybody needs the same level at the same time of all the same skills. And the second part was really, really key about each person on the team is expected to facilitate learning sessions. So that doesn't mean you need to be an expert, but we recognize from the pedagogy of learning that teaching is learning, and that helps us to understand what we do understand, what we don't understand, how to communicate it and how to share it. And this is about an appropriate frequency and appropriate number. Some people conducted more sessions, some people conducted less, but also underneath this is about psychological security. You don't need to be a lecturer or a professional or an expert. Sharing learning. We have a colleague who works in the region with us. I think she's from Trinidad, and she says, in Trinidad, you learn one and you teach one. We very much did that. So things we've newly learned, we then share. But that's about exposing, I'm a beginner, I'm not perfect, I'll teach you what I know, and everybody can partake and contribute and collaborate to that session. There's a lot about psychological security and not feeling like you should know this or I should know this, but there's a lot of freedom to learn and be helped. The leadership development, as I mentioned a moment ago, was a really fundamental enabler of this. If you don't have a team that knows what a strategy is, or how to develop a strategy, how to engage the team, how to involve the team in what a strategy is. You can't write the strategy or we're going to go and people won't buy in. If you don't cut that buy-in, we're not going to get anywhere. So we spent a lot of time about what is a strategy, how do we develop a strategy at the right grade level in our job descriptions, what's our expectation about strategy development. And then, of course, if you've got the strategy, then we need a plan of how we're going to get there. So lots of people talk about Agile and Scrum and Prince 2 and all sorts of Kanbans, but actually when we dug into it, people weren't applying the fundamental principles of project planning, particularly as we're an operational team and work was flying in constantly. I need something in 15 minutes. The waiting list is doing this. Prime Minister's announced this. Secretary is asking for that. We needed the team to go back to really fundamental project planning. What is the scoping? Do the feasibility analysis. Let us as analysts determine the appropriate methods. You tell us what's the intelligence question you're asked for. Don't let the stakeholders tell you, I need a chart with these colors and these lines. And don't you dare put a line through a scatter plot, please. But what is the proper project planning? And then when you've got all these projects on the go, I don't know anyone in our team who's got any less than 6 to 10 things on the go at the moment, and probably a backlog of about 30 to 50 things. What's the wider project management of your portfolio so that when this secretary question comes in today, it's not going to throw off this week's project or this month's program or this quarterly strategic piece of analysis? And how do you manage that portfolio of projects? And then, of course, the governance of we've made this decision, it's documented, and how do we hold people to account to stick to that decision and that scope? A lot about change control falling under governance, of course. And really, really important was about informal authority. We've got Band 4 apprentices who have influenced and led decisions with our chief medical officer about the appropriate modeling to do, because we as analysts have that informal authority as we are the experts in the data. We are the expert in the methods. You're asking us for particular questions, or hopefully asking us questions, not telling us what chart we need, but we have the authority about this is not appropriate with this data quality, or this is the appropriate method to answer this question. And really doing that leadership development skills in the team was key to building that agency within our team about what authority we have, regardless of your band level. And the analysts tend to be lower bands than our program colleagues or the people asking for analysis. So really building up that position of analyst, using informal authority about the expertise we have as an absolute enabler in the leadership role of being able to do advanced analytics. And the stakeholder influencing we'll come on to now. So if we talked about how do you build up your analysts, build your analytical plans, but if your stakeholders aren't on board, we're not going to get very far. So we did a lot about how do you map internal stakeholders about within our analyst team on a spectrum, right, or on a scale. How confident are people to be able to learn these things? How much appetite for change actually is there? And with our stakeholders, are you constantly demanding ridiculous, inappropriate, quote unquote, analytics? Or are you at the other end of really mature analytical questions where we're partnered in shaping what the actual questions are, what the ask is, and the methods, doing the appropriate feasibility testing? So we did stakeholder management training about mapping, and then about influencing with our informal and formal authorities we've talked about, but tactically as well. So if we've got particular stakeholders who, no matter how or what I build my rapport and approach people, they're not shifting their attitudes and their demand for which kinds of analysis we're doing. Keep in mind, we're trying to get into actual, proper forecasting and predictive work, not just descriptive tables of what's happening operationally at the time. But if particular stakeholders it's not resonating with them, who around them would they listen to? Whether it be a clinical person, whether it be someone else in their networks that they respect, but mapping out those networks for that strategic networking of how do we shift people's attitudes, behaviors, and expectation of what is appropriate analytics, and working with an analytics team so that we can do more of that strategic work. But a lot of it is about inspiring the belief in the analysts and the people around us to change those mindsets. And learning new skills is often about changing mindset as much as it is about the actual technical skills. So once we've said, this is the vision where we're going to get to, here's the objectives everybody on the team has, we've now looked at how do we influence people, manage our relationships and our stakeholders. Now we say, like any business does, or like any directorate does, what's the annual program of work? And it's not about what dashboard you're going to need in which week. What are the programs of work? What are we trying to achieve for our patients, our population, our service users, the staff? And therefore, what's the intelligence each of the programs would need, whether it be about length of stay or about waiting lists or about primary care access and same-day appointments or operational planning or even the population health bit and the bits of clustering that's been done? What are the intelligence questions? How do we measure that we're doing the right thing? How do we measure the impact of these programs that NHS England is supporting our providers and systems to do? And if you can see on this little diagram we've got here, you've got these different rows, and these are all analytical pieces of work that stop and start. You've got the scoping, you've got the definition, the signing off, the testing, and the iterative processes. Some of them are, if you can see orange, some of them are less well-defined. Green means more well-defined. Possibly it's darker and lighter, or possibly for your eyes. But we've got an operating model underpinning this where 60 to 80% of our time is spent on routine and strategic analytical questions. And of course, because of the environment we work in, it's 20 to 30% urgent responsive. That's just the environment we work in, and we accept that. But hopefully, those responsive questions can very much draw on self-service tools that have freed up time and sped things up. So there should be the big analytical questions that are underpinned by business plan priorities by the organization directorate each year. And then we've got self-service tools for analysts and our partners or stakeholders answering those responsive questions. And of course, we go over roughly quarterly reviews with stakeholders of tick. We've done this, as we've said, building that confidence in them. Again, it's about that change mindset. This is what's coming up. Do we need to amend any timelines? Do we need to amend what's on or off the actual plan? But you can have an annual analytical plan. And I wouldn't say it's something we ask, can we do this? We say we're going to do it. That's probably how you run a team. So Charlotte will talk a little bit about this more, about that whole thing of protecting time. 70% of the learning we do, as we know, is done on the job, right? It's not that 10% if I went to a course, I had an apprenticeship, or I had a master's and I learned this thing last week and I'm never going to apply it and I'll forget it, or I won't apply it for 6 months and I'll forget it. So what we've done is where we have apprenticeships, learning sessions within our team, we do them fortnightly for about an hour together, as we said, that are facilitated by the team. These timelines of delivery are expanded to accommodate this learning on the job. So our team is learning to do things like working with Databricks, working with Alteryx, working with this unified data access layer, or whether it be the federated data platform and this R Connect, and testing what does and doesn't work, and looking at that. But 70% is done within the deliverables of the team, supported by 10% of these learning sessions or a day a week on master's programs that deliver work for the team. So it's not out of the day job. Yeah. And mentoring and coaching 20% of the time to accommodate it. But within the learning program, we spend about 30% of the time on analytical methods, whether that be distributions and looking at data and consultancy methods, or data visualization, statistics, those leadership skills we've talked about influencing people, building strategies, building plans, tech stack, about the actual software options around us, and of course the key data sets underpinning what are the core data sets the team uses. So I'm going to hand over again here to you, Charlotte, to talk about the themes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to sort of emphasize some of the key themes that are running through the learning and development program. And these are also my favorite aspects of the program as well. So the first one is everyone getting there together. So as Keiko said, we have sessions that everyone attends, every 2 weeks. And then, so the idea is that you're learning something new, but at the same time, all your colleagues are learning something new. It means that, you can set up chats and learning groups if you're implementing them at the same time. And it also means that the QA, the quality assurance, becomes much easier because you know that there are other people in your team that have also learned those new techniques at the same time. This middle one here, protecting learning time whilst delivering, for me, this is absolutely key to stop the learning and development time from getting pushed back. And part of this will be, as Keiko said, embedding the learning within the delivery time. So the learning becomes just as much as a priority as the actual deliverable, because you need to do the learning to be able to deliver the piece of analysis. And then finally, we've got sharing the responsibility. So again, as Keiko said, you have everyone in the team has a responsibility to provide a learning session and participate in the learning and development program. And I think this makes it much more of a sustainable program rather than it being, all on leadership and management. It's everyone's responsibility. So now we've talked through how the program works and how the program works. Now we're going to talk about the impact of the program. And so since the start of the program, we have found that now all of our team has at least some experience in open source coding, such as R and Python, and also then can do some of this coding in notebook style, such as Databricks or Jupyter Notebooks. And everyone in the team now has some knowledge of version control of their code using GitHub as well. And this is a massive improvement since the start of the program, when maybe only a handful of analysts had these capabilities, and now everyone has it according to their level. So we've also found that we've got a higher percentage of our reports now, which are automated and automated using RAP-based principles. And this has led to more analytical time being freed up, so we can mature our analytics capability. The team now has a wider range of techniques that we can regularly implement, such as forecasting, clustering, and system dynamics. And this wouldn't have been something that we would have been able to regularly do at the beginning of implementing the learning and development program. And it's not all technical either. So we found that, running sessions and everyone learning together has created this psychological safety culture in the team around learning. And we've really found that analysts have more confidence in order to step up and be like, yes, I will take on this project in a new technique. And this leads to more development opportunities throughout the team. And we found, before the recruitment freeze came in, we did find that this led to attracting and retaining talent in the team because of the opportunities. And then finally, we found that embedding learning in the deliverables has meant that all in the team have experience in developing new analytics and delivering strategic work, which then leads to increased project management skills and leadership skills as well. Brilliant. And then just to emphasize this further, we have 2 impact statements on the next slide. So we've got a statement here from Grace, who's talking about how, one of the reasons she joined the team was because of the great opportunities for development that we had within the team due to the learning and development program. And then we've got Suchi, who talks about her love for the psychological safety and culture to learning that we have in the team. Brilliant. So now I'm going to hand back over to Keiko to wrap up.
Thanks very much, Charlotte. So what have we learned? We're absolutely perfect and have this completely nailed down, and the whole team does everything we've talked about. And certainly it's not that. But an overt strategy for learning really drives the team forward. I would say start with a strategy, get it endorsed. I see some questions in the Q&A about if we don't have a head of or an executive lead. Set your strategy and find senior people or execs who would endorse your strategy and write that endorsement down and keep reiterating and mentioning that and use that endorsement to build your momentum. I think the other thing about it is other professions, whether you're clinical, you always have to keep your skills going. Why would an analyst be any different? And just keep reminding people about that. But the 70-20-10 approach really is effective. And I think you need to make sure that you can work with your ecosystem of partners, stakeholders, users, customers, whatever it is, to make sure that you can get those timelines built in so that that learning can be done for the business deliverables for that 70% we've talked about. The small actions over time will definitely bolster your team. And facilitators don't need to be experts. Everyone can share what they've learned. We'd like to hear from you, what you're going to take home from today. Before we do that, I just wanted to let you know that we have put our talk, thanks to Laura Burks, who I think is on the line today. If you scan on the left hand to Git, you can get access to the slides we've shared today. On the right hand side, for those of you who have access to NHS Futures, you can see the actual content of the learning sessions we've run in the past. If I also just give you a teaser in the slides, if you access them, we've given you kind of a recipe book of, if you have people on your team kind of freaking out about, I don't know how to train people, I don't know how to facilitate a session, here are what we've learned about set up your learning objectives. Here's how you do your content. Here's how you run interactive sessions. Here's how you run feedback so you can facilitate those learning sessions within your team without being an expert at all, no pressure. And then if you wanted to see a syllabus of all the different analytical skills, whether it be, about data quality or RAP methods or system dynamics or correlation and causation, our favorite classical one, all the leadership skills there in the second column we've covered about being an effective line manager and how to really talk about rapport and action learning sets, tech stack and data sets are there. But yeah, we will handle Q&A and hopefully you can access the stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you both. That was great. Yes, thank you. And yes, please do access all of the resources that Keiko and Charlotte have shared with you. We've answered some of the questions. We've kind of maybe got time for a quick answer, but if it's a long answer, maybe you can follow up in the on the actual text. But there is from Siobhan a question about how do you balance upskilling people development versus business needs. Any quick kind of responses to that one before we move on to the next speaker?
Yep. I think you have to shape we have to be really honest about matching the business needs with people's learning areas. So here are the business needs. Here are the potential analytical methods we can use to answer these questions. And then what are the learning ambitions of the team that match those needs? Does that make sense? And if they don't match, how do you try to bridge that gap? But I think there is something about what are the intelligence needs? What are the different analytical methods, creating a catalog? And a lot of our younger analysts, or less experienced analysts rather, don't always know the methodologies. Everyone hears a lot about coding and a lot about Git right now, but there's a lot about core analytical skills that's not about software.
Great. Thank you. There are a few more comments and questions in the chat, which I'm sure if you have time to have a look at, that would be great. But thanks again for a great talk, and yes, appreciate it.
Thank you.